Okay, parrots, settle down and bow your beaks. O thou who kindly dost provide for every creature's want, we bless thee, God of nature wide, for all thy goodness lent. And if it please thee, heavenly guide, may never worse be sent. But whether granted or denied, Lord bless us with content. Amen. Thank you. That was very civilized. Now you can go and eat your Christmas dinner by pecking away at the dead sea lion that has washed up on the beach. In the meantime, I can talk to Mark about his 20-year investment in TESCO in this episode 28 of the Desert Island Investor. This episode of the podcast is generously hosted by Progressive Equity Research. Visit their website at progressive-research.com. Well, this is our final podcast of 2024, and as we approach Christmas, this is a business that you would fully expect to have strong trading at this time of the year, TESCO.
Yes, Paul, unfortunately, unlike yourself, I'll not be participating in the annual competition of incessant queuing, sharp elbows and wrestling with a granny for that last packet of minced tarts. Now, the supermarkets I've been using recently are Super U, London Way and Winners, as I have been in Mauritius since mid-November, and they're all a similar format. You'd recognise them. But what's the picture in the UK? As a consumer, does it look like we've had a bumper Christmas period, Paul?
Well, the busiest I've seen our local retail park was about a week ago on the Monday after what they call Black Friday, and the car park was absolutely rammed. I mean, it looked like a Saturday afternoon. So there certainly are people out there with the money to spend on a bargain. Anyway, as we kick this one off, can we hear the usual base numbers, please, Mark?
Yeah, TESCO, ticker symbol TSCO. It's got a market cap of 24.9 billion, a PE of 15.5, and a yield of 3.3%, and that's based upon a share price of £3.70.
Now, we actually covered TESCO about 18 months ago, and this is a mature business, but you maintain that a lot has happened relevant to the company over this period.
Yes, I think you'd probably be surprised at the number of events that have taken place that affect this arena, and I think are worthy of comment. Now, relevant to the portfolio, I've added to my holding in April at a price of £2.90, and this is the oldest stock in my portfolio, and we're very nearly in 2025, and that will represent 20 years that I've been a TESCO shareholder. It currently sits at position number 5 in the portfolio, and I've made a number of additions over the years with a succession during COVID as I fled to what you might describe as a defensive holding.
Well, that last purchase in April at £2.90 was an attractive price compared to the share price today, because it's gone up around 27.5%, is it, in just 8 months? Now, you've only added 3 businesses to the portfolio in the 2 years that we've been doing the podcast, and it isn't often that you top up your existing shares. So why did you choose TESCO on this occasion?
It's generally a mix of what I think offers the best value at the time, plus the needs of balancing the portfolio. I do think that TESCO offers those defensive qualities that I mentioned by the very nature of its business. Humans need to eat, and then there's things like brushing teeth with toothpaste and washing, with shampoo and soap. These are daily rituals. But I think what has been a major prompt was the continued weakness of a couple of their competitors. Namely Morrison's and predominantly Asda. And I think we might have mentioned this last time. Now, whereas TESCO have strong cash flows and they're retiring stock through buybacks, Morrison and Asda are servicing those high levels of debt. And the supermarket sector has wafer-thin margins. Perversely, that's one of the moats because it's so tough. It's very difficult to compete on price and also generate enough profit to pay down that debt.
Comparing Asda against TESCO. What's the difference in market share between those two since that last TESCO podcast that we did back in May 2023?
Well, I often trot out the saying that turnover is vanity and profit is vanity and cash is king. But with the supermarket sector, market share really is important. It gives those economies of scale, and suppliers want supermarkets to shift as much of their produce as possible. Now, a lot of those FMCG companies like Unilever, Danone, Nestle, Coca-Cola, Pepsi, Reckitt Benckiser, Kraft Heinz, Mondelez, Procter & Gamble and others, they've got these very strong brands and a lot of muscle. And given Tesco's size, I'd suggest that that's an effective counterbalance in the negotiating power struggle. According to Kantar, Tesco was at 27% when we last covered them, and today it's at 28.1%. Now, that's their highest market share in 7 years. Now, Asda was at 13.8%, and it's now 12.3%. Now, that doesn't sound a lot at first, but that's a 10.9% differential between those two figures that Asda's lost. Now, they're hemorrhaging sales in 2021 when it was bought by TDR Capital and the Issa brothers. Asda's market share was actually 14.8%. And there's a clear direction of travel here. On a personal level, I don't like the offering at Asda. It seems quite down market, and the stores often look drab and untidy. However, I must admit that I recently bought a pair of reading spectacles from Asda. They're prescription and not ready specs, and the service was really good. So, Asda, Paul, any personal views?
I bought some perfectly good things from Asda and some not so good things. I think the price of fruit and veg and bakery and dairy products is certainly very competitive and the quality is fine. But I have found that convenience foods with Asda printed on them can be disappointing.
What does not help Asda has been that drip of negative comment ever since the buyout from Walmart, and this is it's been like constant coverage on that debt pile. Mohsin Issa has twice been called in front of the Commons Select Committee, and I must say he's been interrogated on the levels of debt that Asda have and their strategy on petrol pricing. And I do think that these select committees do often overstep the mark and appear overzealous, really, in their relish to insult and ridicule. And it's almost like a form of fox hunting as they pursue their quarry. Now, in the first instance, Mohsin Issa seemed to be like a little boy lost and totally out of his depth. And the second time around, he performed a lot better, and he looked like he'd received some form of training. But let me frank, I'm sure he performed a lot better than I could have done under that kind of scrutiny. And then there's newspaper reports that the Issa brothers have fallen out. Apparently, Mohsin has left his wife for 30 years for another woman. And Mohsin has stepped down as the CEO, and Zubris has sold his stake in the business. And all these things are distractions for a business. Now, when I was in sales, if one of my competitors were going through a takeover or a merger, or if two branches were simply merging, I would really focus on their customer base. And I found that very often the employees were preoccupied by maintaining their position in any restructuring rather than focusing on servicing their customers. And I was there ready to pounce.
And I believe that Asda has a new chairperson coming in.
Yes, it's Alan Layton. Now, he was formerly with Asda back in the 1990s, and he was credited with Archie Norman with turning around its fortunes ahead of it being sold to Walmart. Now, he's recently been the chair of the Co-op. He's been a non-exec chair of the Royal Mail, and he's a list of other high-profile directorships. On Companies House, he has 22 appointments listed. Now, he's a big hitter with a lot of experience, but so was his predecessor, Lord Rose. Now, he was with Burton's, Argos, Arcadia, Ocado, Booker, and most notably M&S. But also, he's not been able to stem the tide. So you can have all the experience in the world, but you can't pull off miracles. That debt exists, whoever's leading the business. Now, Lord Rose is 75 and Alan Layton is 71. So do they genuinely think they can turn this around, or is it one last payday? And on top of everything, I understand that Asda are extricating themselves from the Walmart IT system. And I think if history has shown us anything, it's that a new computer system always brings some kind of collateral damage. So good luck.
Okay, well, returning to Tesco's, since we last covered them, I understand there's been a major development in your own hometown of Darwin.
Yes, Paul, the metropolis of Darwin has a new build Tesco Express, and it's in what's called the Hollins Grove area, and that's around a mile and a half out of the centre on the road into Blackburn. Now, it was built on the land of the old Liberal Club, which had been a derelict eyesore for a number of years. So this is a return to some useful purpose. Now, immediately next door was a co-op, and that had been there as long as I can remember. And it was a very tired looking building, but I suppose a fixture. And ahead of the news that Tesco were arriving, it converted to a NISA. Now, this was a major talking point amongst the locals who seemed genuinely thrilled that a Tesco would be arriving, and there was speculation that the NISA's days were numbered. So, sure enough, once Tesco opened, with the added advantage of some customer parking, which NISA didn't have, the NISA closed in very short order. Now, the feedback from people I spoke to directly is that they're delighted with the new Tesco. But in contrast, I've taken a look at the Google reviews, and it has a score of 3.0 out of 5, and that's from 24 reviews. So there is some work to do there. Now, also in Darwin Town Centre, there's a Farmer McCall's. That's now a one-stop. And it's what's called Lower Darwin. Actually, there's a former fireplace shop that's converted to a one-stop. Now, one-stop is a subsidiary of Tesco, and I understand these two in Darwin are both franchises. And then on top of that, the petrol station that's nearest to me, and we boast two petrol stations in Darwin, that's become a Londis, and they stock the Jack's branded goods, which are again part of the Tesco range, named after the founder, Jack Cohen. So now I'm not saying that Darwin is representative of what's happening around the country, but it's interesting as an investor how you can see these developments firsthand. And there's certainly a lot more Tesco products being sold in Darwin over that short period of time. And interestingly, it's worth mentioning that in those Kantar figures we quoted, my understanding is that it only refers to Tesco branded stores. Sales from One Stop, Londis, and the products sold through Booker to cafes, restaurants, and other independent stores will all be on top. Now, Tesco's outright has 28.1% of the UK market, and Sainsbury's 15.9%, and Asda 12.3%. So Tesco are just 0.1% short of matching Sainsbury's and Asda combined. But they'll be way ahead when you add on all those other routes to market.
Plus, of course, there is the growing UK population, which is creating the inevitable challenge that you simply refer to as more bellies to fill.
Yeah, that's right, Paul. If you look at somewhere like Japan, their population has dropped every year for the last 14 years. Now, our population is increasing. In the year to June 2023, net migration was 906,000. And in 2024, it's 728,000. Now, Keir Starmer gave a speech on this saying it was way too high and must come down, but he refused to put a number on this target, as he said this had been attempted previously and failed. Now, as an observer, I don't think there is any belief or motivation politically to reduce these numbers, and these high levels of migration will continue to be with us. The good news for Tesco is that they're gaining a larger share of a growing market.
You did mention to me earlier that one topic you wanted to cover today was the sale of Tesco Bank. So what's going on there?
Yeah, on the 1st of November, Tesco announced that they completed the sale of the bank to Barclays, and they entered into a strategic partnership with them. And Tesco say Tesco will retain all the existing insurance and money services activities, including ATMs, travel money, and gift cards. These are capital light, profitable businesses with a strong connection to the core retail offer. Now, for me, the bank sits better within Barclays. Tesco can concentrate on their core offering. And Tesco have advised that they will use the proceeds of this sale, that's a £700 million, on a further share buyback. And that's once the current £1 billion buyback has been completed.
Tesco has had quite an aggressive share buyback program over several years, which, as you have indicated, gives them excess cash compared to some of their competitors. So what's the scale of that?
Well, Tesco started this spate of buyback back in October of 2021, and there was about 7.7 billion shares issued. Now, today, it's around 12.75% less. So just by standing still as a shareholder, I've got a significantly higher percentage holding the business, and therefore a larger share in any profits. And we still have got these announced buybacks in the pipeline, and potentially further beyond this.
Over the years, Tesco has also made a number of disposals.
Yes, they really began to blur the strategy in that quest for growth and made a number of acquisitions, poor ones, I would argue, and some of these have been reversed with disposals. Their Far East supermarkets was a major disposal. But then there's been opticians, coffee shops and restaurants, Dobby's Garden Centre, and other costly distractions. And it's a much more focused business now. They did also trial Jack's as a supermarket offering to challenge the discounters, but they withdrew from that. And the evidence suggests that Tesco itself is managing to cope and indeed expand despite the likes of Aldi and Lidl. Tesco have a presence in Ireland. It's actually number 2 with 23.4%, and they're behind Dunn's. They're the market leader with 24%. And then there is Super Value, third with 19.6%. So there's not much daylight between those three. And those are the most recent Kantar figures which I have available from September. Now, Tesco also have a presence further away in Central Europe, which is namely the Czech Republic, Hungary, and Slovakia, and that accounts for 7% of sales. In 2020, they sold their stores in Poland, so they may sell their remaining European stores for further focus in this business. Perhaps that's something that could happen.
Now, we both have a Tesco Club Card, but you have a Club Card Plus. So how does that work?
Yeah, I boast a Club Card Plus, Paul. So you sign up online and it costs £7.99 a month, and I receive a 10% discount on 2 shops per month up to a value of £200. Now, the shopping pattern is that we do 2 big shops per month. That's both fresh goods and perishables, beer and wine, cleaning materials, toothpaste, incidents. Everything gets thrown in. So we get pretty near that £200 mark, and that's a £40 saving over the 2 shops, less that £7.99 monthly charge. So there's a potential £32 and a penny monthly saving if you use it to its full potential. Now, a particular benefit is that I can opt out of my subscription at any point. So I'm in Mauritius and then on to Indonesia, so away for 3 months, but I've still got to pay my council tax and my internet, etc., even though I'm not using it. With the Club Card Plus, I cancelled it ahead of coming away, and we'll just reinitiate it when I return. You can turn it off and on like a tap. And we travel to a number of miles to our larger Tesco. There's one in Haslingden, which has a petrol forecourt, and one in Great Harwood, which doesn't. So we mix between the two depending on our fuel needs and other business that we need to perform. And then we top up in between with mainly a Sainsbury's in Darwin. So are you loyal to one supermarket, Paul, or are you a bit of what we could call a supermarket tart?
Well, I wouldn't travel from one supermarket to another one located on the other side of town. But fortunately, in my area, we benefit from the fact that supermarkets have a habit of setting up shop quite near to a competitor. So in one journey and then a short hop from car park to car park, I can go to an Aldi, a Morrison's and a Sainsbury's in Bolton Town Centre, or I can go to an Aldi and a Tesco in Horwich, or to an Aldi and a Sainsbury's in West Horton. So as far as, I've kind of switched to Aldi as my primary supermarket now. But there are some things that are better quality elsewhere. And of course, Aldi don't have a club card. And I have noticed that Sainsbury's and Tesco loyalty cards can give you some quite substantial savings at the till sometimes. So that's always definitely a plus point. And on the subject of money, you wanted to mention the impacts of the budget on Tesco. So let's start with the negative ones.
Yes, the employer national insurance contributions will have a massive impact on Tesco and the minimum wage, which will impact any differentials. Now, I've already estimated that the national insurance hit alone to Tesco will be around 1 billion. Now, Tesco is the largest private employer in the UK, and supermarkets are very labour intensive. So, to give this some relevance, group sales at Tesco are 61.5 billion. And adjusted operating profit is 2.8 billion. It can't absorb that, Paul. A few predictions. We're going to have increased prices. These businesses have got wafer thin margins and they cannot absorb it. There's going to be greater automation throughout the business. And you don't pay national insurance for a machine. It's only for a human, and you're likely to see a further move away from man checkouts or person checkouts, I suppose I'd have to say these days. And these employment costs will obviously hit all supermarket groups. So it'll be disproportionately felt most by those with the shallower pockets and the lesser efficiencies and those economies of scale. And this could actually benefit Tesco as they've got the biggest model. So, as an aside, on the kind of automation, we use the scan as you shop, and previously you had to put all your items in a trolley, then queue, then load them onto a conveyor belt, and when they've been checked out by the assistant who's trained to be pleasant and engaged, but in truth, I just want to be in and out as quickly as possible. And then it's back into your trolley again. The scan as you shop is much quicker, but randomly have to undergo a spot check to make sure, quite rightly, that I've not been shoplifting.
Okay. But there was also something that you saw as a rare positive.
Yeah. I was broadly negative on the budget, like most investors. Perhaps those investors in solvency business have a different stance. It was heralded as a budget for growth, but I struggle to see how that will be achieved with higher taxation and taking money out of people's pockets and taking away incentives. But I do give credit where credit is due, and I picked up on this during Rachel Reeves's Rachel Thieves. I nearly said again there. Rachel Reeves's speech.
More
Yeah,
appropriate, isn't it?
yeah. But people have been slipping that one in a little bit, haven't they? But it was. An acronym of Reeves is actually severe, Paul. I don't know if you've picked up on that, but it's not. It hasn't received much coverage, and it's been overshadowed by other things. And that's the scrapping of the low value threshold of £200 for shoplifting, which basically I saw as decriminalising shoplifting. Now I've seen countless videos of people walking into a store and hooded criminals methodically filling their bags while shop staff and customers just look on, and this is total madness. So meanwhile, you've got your old pensioners, they're making up the shortfall by playing by the rules. So shoplifting is theft. It's not a peccadillo, and the government and also apparently investing in training and targeting these gangs that steal to order.
Budget aside, there is another development that is a potential threat to Tesco, and that's the equal pay claims that a number of retailers are facing.
This has been bubbling away for a number of years. I really thought this would go nowhere, and I'm increasingly appear to be wrong on this one. Now, there's a company called Lee Day who appear to be representing the employees of a number of major retailers on a no-win, no-fee basis on sexual discrimination. Now, we're not in favour of sexual discrimination, Paul, but what it is, the argument is that the majority of the employees in the store are women, now, although not exclusive, and the majority of the employees in the warehouse are men, although that's not exclusive. Now, the warehouse pay is higher than the store pay, and this discriminates against women. Now, for me, this is not as an investor, but a simple bystander. These are two totally different tasks. Now, in order for discrimination to be proved, and I'll use that word with caution, it's got to be shown that both jobs are comparable. And my opinion is that there's no chance. They're two different tasks. Well, in August, 3,500 former and current Nextar employees won their case, and there's going to be back pay that could total some 30 million. And also there'll be increased costs, no doubt, going forward. So Next is appealing, but this could set a precedent for other retailers. And, just over half of the Next warehouse staff were male. It's not predominantly male. So, Paul, is this justice, or is it just down to who you can persuade that's right? Now, in the legal case, it seems to be if you pay enough money, if you can get the best barrister, you're going to win the case, whether you're right or not. Now, does a judge just sit there and think, there's no discrimination, but it would be nice if that big rich business was made to give free money to those employees, and it could come down to some kind of personal viewpoint on something. So you've said to me, Paul, that judges should be replaced by a computer instead of winning or losing depending on how much money you can pay for the best lawyer. What's your thoughts?
Well, yes, I do. I just find it irritating that the legal profession thinks the public should hold it in high esteem as the guardians of justice, when it's perfectly clear that the effort lawyers put in is based on the amount of money that they're paid. And judges will clearly allow political interference to influence their decisions. So, yes, I think if cases were tried by a computer that that wasn't aiming to buy a new BMW for Christmas, it would probably result in a fairer system. Anyway, right, rant aside, it's clear that a lot has changed over the past 18 months, and it will be interesting to see what the supermarket sector looks like in another 18 months. Let's just hope that Tesco weathers a storm and that you can return to do another positive review next year. This is our Christmas episode, and as 2024 draws to a conclusion, I know that you are keen to say a few thank yous.
Yeah, I think it'd be like to say a few thank yous to everybody over the last year who's either subscribed, left a comment, or a like, or simply listened. This whole endeavour, is pointless unless people listen to it and hope that they'll take something from it, either learn something or find it interesting or entertaining or amusing. And our audience, our friends, they've been very supportive, and I don't think we've received a single really negative comment like it was what you could describe as a troll. But I'd like, as a special thank you, to say thank you to our castaways, Miles Adcock, who's the CEO of Concurrent Technologies, and Jeremy McEwen of the In the Company of Mavericks podcast, who visited us. And I'd also like to thank Jeremy, not just for that, but the support that he's shown us throughout the year. And then we had some dear friends come along. There's David Barry and John Walter, and thanks, gentlemen. They were very, very well received. And let's not forget Progressive Equity Research, namely Gareth Evans and Kath Amos, who kindly host this podcast and promote it. And we're very proud that our name is alongside theirs. But there's one special person that I have to mention, and that's you, Paul. And this isn't my podcast. There's two of us in this endeavour, and I'm keen to stress that, as I don't want to be held responsible as the only person for pumping out this drivel every couple of weeks. You've got your you're as guilty as I am.
Yeah, thanks. Share the blame between two of us.
Yeah, and I literally can't do this without you, Paul. And believe me, there's days when I wish I could. And it's a team. One of us is educated, insightful, and one of us is amusing and charismatic. And it's just a pity that in both cases it happens to be me. Now,
right.
Yeah, but you're the marketing man, and you've ensured that the Desert Island Investor is the best kept secret on the internet. And when you asked me how I wanted you to pitch this, I said irreverent, and I think you misheard that as irrelevant. Now, I wasn't expected, to be recognised in the street, but I'm not even getting recognised in my living room. But of course, Paul, it's all leg pulling. In truth, against all the metrics, views, subscribers, hours watched, downloads, have exceeded what we did in 2023, which is really encouraging. And I enjoyed our collaboration, and I'm looking forward to 2025. We've got some really special episodes lined up. So now, despite me being thousands of miles away, I can nevertheless present you with a couple of gifts. So if you reach down to your right-hand side, you should find two gifts, two parcels, Paul.
Yes, I put them by my side.
You just open the bigger one first, Paul, because it's coming up to Christmas, and I'd like you to have a drink on me, mate.
Okay, right, I'll start with that. Hang on. I have to say, I think I can guess kind of what it is. It's some kind of a bottle. And it is. It's that's fantastic, Mark. Thank you very much for that. It's a bottle of Mount Gay Eclipse rum, which is my favourite rum for Cuba Libre. So that's an excellent start. Thank you very much indeed for that. And I've got two others. So any particular order that I need to open these in? There's a slightly bigger one and a very tiny one. I'll open the bigger one. Hang on. Right. Okay. Thank you. Some Bois Cherie single estate black label tea. So
yeah.
So what's the story behind this? Where's this come from then?
Well, this has come from Mauritius, Paul. So when I got back to the island, you can make me a nice cup of tea in the morning. So I brought that back from last year. So I can see that you're obviously impressed with that.
Yeah, I'm just checking the sell-by date. Yeah, actually, you can see this is from last year's visit.
I went on the factory tour last year. It was very, no health and safety there, mate. But there should be a second gift to help you there.
Right. Okay. Hang on a minute. Okay. Oh, right. Fabulous. Is this to light the stove with to put the kettle on? I've got a box of Dodo matches.
Yeah, that's right.
With a picture of a Picture of a dodo on the front on a beach overlooking the sea with the sun rising.
For the last 2 years, I've been having to rub those sticks together, Paul, every morning. So
yeah. So this is okay. That's great. So it's for me to do set the bonfire and the campfire going and the stove.
Yeah. So no excuses now, mate. You've got. It must have about 52 matches there. So tea, matches, and rum. So I think what I'll do, Lee, Paul, I'll let you have the last words.
Thank you very much for my presence. And as usual, I haven't bought you anything. And it's not an indication of the way I feel about things, but I'm just tight. We'll just thank you very much indeed. I mean, obviously we've done some great episodes this year, and some of them are a bit more contentious than others, and they seem to have done very well. So let's hope we can keep turning the dial next year. And I'll just, like I say, wish all of our listeners a very Merry Christmas, and wish a Merry Christmas to you, Mark, and your family.
Thanks, Paul. Same to your good self, mate, and to all our audience.
All right, Merry Christmas. Well, that's all for this episode. We hope that you enjoyed it. Please remember the content is for information only, and it is not financial advice. If you have a question for Mark for our Question in a Bottle podcast, just complete the form on our website, thedesertislandinvestor.co.uk. Thanks again for listening. See you next time.